love reviewing new TV shows, we keep it real, reminiscing the attitude era, wrestling at its peak. Nostalgia from the 80s and 90s, memories we seek. Pineapples for our rings, a unique touch. Geek culture in our blood, we love it so much. Geek Blue Forever, we love it so much. Geek Blur, where we talk about it all, from superheroes to wrestlers. We stand tall, Ray and Kevin, the dynamic duo in sight. Geek Blur, shining bright, shining bright. Did you hear about Pluto? That's messed up, right? Geek Blur, taking you on a nostalgia flight. From movies to TV, we cover it all. Join us in every week, we'll have a ball. Shuffle.
Hey,
What's happening? Not much, man. Not much. How are you?
doing all right, doing okay, getting by, getting through this crappy winter. What is that cover of Superman in the background? Sorry
This is
be distracted.
another one I was thinking about adding to the list. This is Up in the Sky by Tom King. It's a pretty quick read. It's got some Batman, but it's basically all about. It's actually I've only read half of it. That's what I was going to suggest at some point. But basically, it seems like Superman has to figure out if going off planet to save one life is worth possibly not saving more lives on Earth. As somebody is kidnapped and taken to space. I read about half of it the other day, and it's pretty good read. I like it a lot so far. And I like to have a comic displayed up there when we record because it looks kind of nice.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah. I also got the rest of the North Fantastic Four run in the mail today, so can't wait to read all 4 of those because I've heard nothing but great things about them. So
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to be getting into the Fantastic Four, I think, soon.
okay.
I want to do. What was the one that I recommended to you last week online? I can't remember. Life Story. That one sounds really good. I need to read that.
And I gave you the new run by Hickman, which is also a very good one.
Yeah. I need to read that.
I started reading the North one. It's really cool. It takes place. It starts off with the Thing and his wife in a small town that's stuck in a time loop. I think in like 1947 or something like that.
Interesting.
It's a very interesting story, and like the first chapter is all just their story. So yeah, it's good so far.
Nice. Speaking of comic books, we had a series finale or a season finale for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
We did.
Came out yesterday, the day before. 2 episodes. I like this show a lot. I think out of all the animated shows, it may be my favorite out of all of them.
You like it more than
I did like X-Men
97?
X-Men 97. X-Men 97 was pretty good nostalgia wise. But what this show does, it took the what if concept and kind of turned it on its head, and this is what if should have been. Something like this, long-term storytelling. You find out Osborn's true motives. You always know he's going to be the Green Goblin eventually. You don't see him yet, but you have seen the glider a couple times in the season. But his main goal, his motives throughout this whole entire season, is he's trying to create instantaneous space portals that are going to go into outer space. And he does in this episode. He's using these kids coming in as quote-unquote interns, Peter Parker being one, Amadeus Cho being another, and they're using all of their scientific ability to each part of it finally coming together to build these space portals. And he opens one up, and the symbiote that we see in the first episode comes out of one. I'm guessing from the planet of the symbiotes, because at the end we see a whole bunch of symbiotes. And the symbiotic invader comes in, and Doctor Strange comes in to intervene with a whole bunch of time travel fuckery. Brings it all back around to the first episode. I thought the finale was fantastic. And he ends up stopping a full-blown symbiotic invasion. But not before leaving a piece of black goo, which always happens with a symbiote when it lands in Manhattan for some reason. You see a cameo from the Watcher. There's a bunch of Season 2 teases at the end. By the end of the season, Lonnie, is now the boss of this gang. We of course know he's Tombstone. In the comic books, he has this vitiligo disease where he's African American, but he ends up turning gray. It's kind of gray-white, and he becomes like a Tombstone. And you actually see him get his powers, and by the end of the episode, you actually see his skin, his fingers are starting to turn gray. So we'll probably see his full turn as Tombstone in probably the next couple of seasons. This is going to last probably for 3 seasons at least. We see Dr. Octopus kind of trying to figure out how to get the tentacles on himself. He's in jail, in prison right now. We see Osborn finds the symbiote in Oscorp. So as far as the comic book story of that, and of course the video game, Spider-Man 2, Harry Osborn does end up having a symbiote. Eddie Brock is the known Venom, but there is another Venom, and that is Harry Osborn, Norman's son. And finding the symbiote in Oscorp and being able to study it, I could see that going to Harry at some point, or Peter from there, or wherever, telling that adjacent story of the symbiote story. And Peter, his father is in jail, in prison, and we find that out that he is alive in this universe. So yeah, I'm excited. There is a season 2, and Brad Winterbaum released, or whoever's doing the producing of this, I think it's Brad, released the first picture of a new character. We're going to be seeing not only Jean Grey, Gwen Stacy, but we're going to be seeing Spider-Gwen, which means that the multiverse is going to be opened wide in this as well. I'm wondering if we're going to get the full Green Goblin story arc that we got in the Amazing Spider-Man in animated form. This show is a lot darker tone compared to a lot of the other animated stuff too. I didn't notice that. There's guns, which I was surprised on Disney Plus there isn't even guns, because Disney has gone away from the gun. Even Marvel itself, most of the guns in Marvel are not bullets anymore. They're all like that. For a while it was Chitauri tech and all that shit, but the animated series delve right into that. So yeah, excited to see where this goes, and we'll talk about any news we get in the next year or so, whenever the new season comes out. So that's cool. Did not watch Dark Side. We're going to talk about this probably once the finale comes out. The finale comes out. It's the one I want to see. So we're going to wait a couple weeks on that. Just a few more weeks, and we got Dark Side of the Ring. So excited for that too. Invincible, you're not caught up on that yet.
Nope, I'm going to binge it when it's over.
Okay. It's coming out weekly. That's on Prime. But you have watched Cobra Kai, so we are going to talk about that.
Okay, so
the only thing I know, only thing I know about it, there is a spoiler. We're gonna spoil something at the end. I just want you to tell me about it because I've heard about it. Actually, we'll do it right now. Mr. Miyagi, AI.
Yes.
Was that a thing? How'd it look?
Looked fine.
Okay. The deep fake. It was deep fake, I'm guessing.
That shit doesn't bother me anymore.
Okay.
Honestly.
The only time it bothered me was the first time I saw Luke Skywalker in Mandalorian.
Right.
Then they hired the deep fake guy that fixed it on the internet and made it 10 times better.
See, for
ended
me,
up putting
it
him
was
on the payroll.
when we saw Leia.
That was bad too.
That
in
was
Rogue One,
and,
right?
Moff,
And Moff Tarkin.
Yes. Those were the ones that bothered me. The Luke one did not bother me because that scene was just so badass.
It was badass, yeah.
So yeah, this season, as I bring out my copious amounts of notes, I will go through these very quickly. Starts off immediately in the aftermath of one of the fighters in the tournament, because the second part of this 3-part thing ended with one of the kids dying, gets stabbed.
Okay.
So they kind of hold off on the tournament for a little bit, and everyone goes home. And the only holdout to stop the tournament from continuing is Daniel. So basically, Johnny and Daniel are running basically their dojo together at this point.
Right.
Creasy has the Cobra Kai name, and he only has one person on his team, and it's the only person he cares about. One of the main girls. That's not Daniel's son. The other girl. So basically, Johnny eventually convinces Daniel to re-enter the tournament. So from there, it's basically Robbie is put up against the baddest motherfucker on the planet, which obviously, because it's all takes place like it's still in the 80s, the guy's obviously Russian, and the guy obviously is built in a lab type deal.
Right.
Before the tournament, basically, Creasy comes up to Johnny and there's a very emotional scene where he basically just is like, I know I screwed your entire life up. Like, that's all on me. He's like, this is my last tournament. I've got the girl going. Like, I'm sorry about all that bullshit that we went through, blah, blah, blah. And Johnny was still didn't really accept the apology. So then you go into the fight with Robbie. And the Russian dude, who's also trained by Cole from Mortal Kombat, that's his sensei of his dojo. They weren't brought in until the beginning of this season 6. That guy has the Russian dude break Robbie's leg. Very reminiscent of what Johnny would not do in the very first Karate Kid movie.
Mm-hmm.
So then, because Miguel's already been eliminated, because you could only have one person from each dojo representing him. So then Johnny goes back to Creasy and he goes, you owe me a fucking favor, basically. He's like, and he goes through this whole like speech, this whole ramble about basically how Creasy owes him one favor. And he's like, you need to do me this favor. So they get Miguel to switch back to Cobra Kai, which is where he started with Johnny in the very first episode. So the very first 2 students Johnny had are now representing Cobra Kai under Johnny and not Creasy. Kind of bringing things full circle. The girl goes in and she wins, obviously. Miguel goes in and he wins. So now, because it's all point-based, now everything is tied up as far as points go between the 2 dojos, the one led by dude from Mortal Kombat and then Cobra Kai. So they decide that the last match to decide who's going to win the tournament is going to be held and decided by the dojo's senseis. So now Johnny has to fight for Cobra Kai to win this tournament against a dude who's like 30 years younger than him. So, of course, Johnny goes down early. Then they give him this big pep speech. Like, it's all very, very 80s, all that shit. So then Johnny comes back, blah, 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 gets tied up. And they go into the point match, the match point. And Johnny basically goes in and, like, they do all these flashbacks from him training in Karate Kid, him training in all this, everything that he's been part of in Cobra Kai. Which they did also during the Miguel fight, which I forgot to bring up. But anyways, so Johnny goes out there and the guy goes for a high kick, similar to what Daniel did in Karate Kid. How does Johnny beat him? He sweeps the leg. Brings everything full circle. The one move he wouldn't do to Daniel in the first one because Daniel's leg was injured. And he refused to do it. A few other things that happen in this is, like, I think this is pure comedy, is the bad guy from Karate Kid 3, who's got like his own dojo in this whole thing, plans to like basically kill Miguel. And Creasy goes onto his boat like the night before the final of this tournament happens. Creasy goes onto this boat. They have this little like fight between these 2 fucking 75-year-old, like the 60-year-old dude. Is the most ridiculous thing ever. And then what's Creasy do? He fucking blows up the boat and kills them both. Wow. That shit was fucking hilarious to me. So this show did not lead into what we're getting with the movie. That
was my next question. Okay.
Basically, what happens is Miguel and Sam, Daniel's daughter, are in love, and they end up. She wants to kind of travel the world and go to Japan, and he basically blows off college to join her. Robbie and his girl, they end up basically teaching karate like worldwide on the circuit to like young kids. Everyone's story is resolved very well. The show is very good, but it's also incredibly cheesy. But I mean, it's like watching an 80s movie nowadays. Like if you watch the original Karate Kid nowadays, that's incredibly cheesy also. Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed how they wrapped everything up. Everyone got a really good ending to their story. There was a bunch of emotion, stuff like that. Overall, I'd say this show's like a solid out of 5, probably like a 3.5 overall. Seasons 1 and 2 are by far the best seasons, and then probably the 6th season. Everything seasons like 3, 4, and 5 are all kind of people flip-flop. They go to different dojos, they come back, they combine dojos, they do this, they do that. But the last season, the first 2 seasons are so strong. I do recommend you check them out. Plus, you finish the season in like 3 hours because they're very short for the most part. So yeah, I do recommend seeing it, and I was glad to
Nice.
spend time with these characters. And I'm interested to see what they do with the movie. I'm sure they might mention stuff that happens in the show, but since they basically just they put all the kids onto an island, so they don't have to be involved. Oh yeah, Paul Walter Hauser
Yeah.
came back for the very last scene because he was in the. I want to say he came in like the second season. But he was this like 25-year-old dude trying to like be part of like a kids dojo type deal. So he was always like the comedic relief of the entire series. And so he's like lining up all these kids who want to sign up for Cobra Kai because they just won the tournament and everything. And he's like trying to tell them they have to be tough and blah, blah, blah. And then he gets a phone call from his mom and he's like, yeah, Mom, shepherd's pie. It's fine for dinner, Mom. Yeah, okay. I'll be home in 20 minutes, Mom. Yeah, okay. Then he like jumps into his car and like drives. Like, it was just hilarious. Like they brought him back for like that one scene. That guy's
Wow.
incredible. But yeah,
I love
overall, I love all the characters, especially like my favorite was probably Hawk. I liked Hawk a lot. Yeah, enjoyed the show a lot.
Nice. Nice. That is on Netflix. It started off on YouTube TV, right? Or
Yes,
whatever they
and
used
the
to
first
have
two
for their
seasons
streaming.
are a little bit more mature.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I watched, speaking of mature, I watched two documentaries I wanted to briefly bring up.
I just labeled them as documentaries.
First one is called American Murder. Gabby Petito took over the media storm a couple of years ago when she went missing. Found out that her boyfriend Brian Laundrie ended up killing her in the desert, and then he ended up killing himself and got eaten by alligators. Crazy story.
Oh, I remember that.
This whole documentary is on Netflix, 3 parts. Great, if you want to watch it. And I was recommended to watch Get Gotti, which I think I added to my list a long time ago because I love the mob stuff, the real life shit that happened.
Did you ever watch the John Travolta movie?
No, I will refuse to
Okay,
because
good,
it's
good.
0% on Rotten
Don't.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's.
But the story it's a very good story. True life, happened in the 80s, about John Gotti and how he became the boss of New York, one of the families, ended up being the big boss, and he became this media darling. They call him Teflon Don because he went through like 3 different times through court, was being harassed by FBI and crime enforcement, and he beat each case back and forth. And it was the third one that they finally got him, and they showed how they got all the information and how they wiretapped his house. A lot of great information in this. This came out a couple years ago, but I did want to bring it up that I watched it. Both of these documentaries are really good. Netflix, I think, between that and HBO, they've come up with some of the best documentaries. Netflix has the money to get and pay people to come in. So they have a lot of the family. They have a lot of old mobsters that worked for Gotti doing interviews in this. So, and of course, all the FBI agents that were involved in that. And same with the Petito documentary. The family, for the first time, talked about it. Gabby's mother, Gabby's father, stepfather, all that stuff. So yeah, they do a great job with the documentaries. So if you have a chance, watch those 2. Check out the documentary section on Netflix. There's a ton of great ones on there, and
Netflix is
I'm
good
sure
for
you'll find
documentaries
something.
and comedy.
Right, I'm sure you'll find something. Comedy for sure. Yeah.
That's what they're doing best at.
Briefly, I want to talk about this because we decided we're going to do a whole Watchmen watch in September.
Yes, and I personally did not want to do the Ultimate Edition then, so we can just do like the director's cut for that.
Yes, I think
because
so.
The Ultimate Cut I watched this summer, and woof, and I love Watchmen.
Well, I had no idea this existed until yesterday, whatever day I watched this.
Yep.
Basically, what they did, there was an animated film that came out at like 5 years after The Watchmen came out, and it was set on this. It was like a comic book story, where it was a comic book that Zack Snyder had filmed, and he took the animation from the comic book and put it into the Watchmen story as this kid was reading the comic book throughout the cut of the movie. They ended up cutting a lot of that out, including the comic book animation, which I think he must have went back and did a few years after. But it was weird. It did take you out, but the whole story of the Watchmen itself, like it's a decent movie. But there are a lot of stuff that you want to be invested more in the world that you're not. It's kind of Zack Snyder has that problem with a lot of his movies.
Yep.
But Watchmen is one of my favorites for him too.
I don't think
so. You give him
Zack's strong suit is world building.
Right, that's what. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And the thing about the Ultimate Cut, here's what I'll tell you about the Ultimate Cut. So I was like, I want Watchmen on 4K. So what did I do? I went out and bought the 4K. It says it comes with the Ultimate Cut, Director's Cut,
Yep.
and the original cut. The 4K disc only has the Ultimate Cut on it. The other one's just a Blu-ray
that's
disc
dumb.
with the Director's Cut and the regular cut. I'm like, the regular cut might be on the 4K, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Ultimate Cut, which was really, really annoying. And that's when I found out about the Ultimate Cut. I'd like heard that there was an Ultimate Cut. I just thought people were referencing the Director's Cut, which I had already seen. And so, like, whenever the first like cartoon hit in this, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, it was weird.
But
Took
it's
you out of
odd
it.
that it's odd that Zach has like a multiple cuts of this movie because he never does that. That's one thing that he's always been very good at is nailing it on the very first cut of every movie. Has nailed his director's vision every time. I don't even know why he does director's cuts.
I can understand. I can understand the Justice League one. I'm not going to give him knocks on that because that was a family issue.
Yes.
But the ultimate version of Batman vs Superman, superior. The ultimate version of none of this. Watchmen was not better.
The director's cut
the
of
ultimate
Watchmen is better
version
than theatrical to me. This is not better
Yes.
than either one of those.
The ultimate versions or director's cuts of Rebel Moon, way better than the original one that he
But
came
they're
out
still
with.
not great.
But they're not great,
But
but they're
yes.
better. They're on
They
a
are
whole
better.
other level.
Yes.
Where one of them was a 20, it turned it up to a 60 for me, probably out of 100.
Yeah.
But
My whole thing about the BVS Ultimate Edition is for me, like they say if you left it like that and put it in theaters for the extra half hour, it would have made more money.
no,
I don't know if that's true. There's no way of proving that one way or the other. Also, to me, if you did not like BVS theatrically, I don't think the Ultimate Cut would have changed your mind. But if you were like okay or you liked the theatrical, I think the Ultimate Cut made you like it more. I've never seen somebody that didn't like it in theaters and then watch the Ultimate and be like, "Oh, I really like that movie now," because I don't think it
Yeah.
added that much. But like, I was okay enough with BVS in theaters. I mean, I saw it 3 times for Christ's sake before I even had the movie pass. So I liked it enough in theaters so when the Ultimate Cut came out, it did enhance the experience. I don't know one way or the other if you can say it would have made more money in theaters. And his Justice League cut is an example of a movie that they could have cut that down to 2 hours and 45 minutes. It would have
Easily.
been excellent. And it would have, you know, I mean, he just added a bunch of stuff in there because he could, because it was for streaming and whatever. So that could have been done, but Warner Brothers were idiots and didn't really understand comic books. Like, they didn't know The Flash could do that as far as rewind time. Which was one thing. And also with BS, the studio wanted to get rid of all the Nightmare stuff. That's what they wanted Zack to remove, right? This is coming from Zack Snyder's mouth. They wanted him to remove that stuff. And if you had done that and left everything else in from the Ultimate Edition, I think it would have been way better received. And the reason why they didn't do that is because Zack goes, well, those are the only scenes I filmed in IMAX, so you want to remove the only IMAX scenes? So that's why Warner Brothers cut up other parts of the movie and not those.
Okay.
I think if you had gotten rid of the Nightmare stuff, I think it would have played better for the general audience, because like it's kind of like you're watching the movie, you don't have any idea what's going on because you don't know he's potentially going to do that in the sequel to a movie he hadn't even started production on. You know, so yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Watchmen in September for the 39th anniversary of the comic.
Yeah, which we just found out this week when we decided
Yes.
to do that. Because number one, getting into this, I want to continue the series, the live action one that came out on HBO,
Yes.
right? Or Max, or
It's
Showtime,
Max.
one of them.
Yep.
I want to watch. We're going to read the comic book because I haven't read it in a while,
We haven't seen the animated movie.
and the animated movie,
Yes.
which we
So we
haven't
got 4
talked
weeks
about
of
or haven't
coverage
watched
there.
it.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the movie too, the director's cut. We'll talk all about that at the time. And yeah, watched a great movie this week. I did not see
Yes.
Captain America: Brave New World.
Oh, thank God.
I had too much. I was waiting for a phone call today I never received, which sucks when that happens. But I couldn't go to the movies because of that. Plus, I don't really care about Captain America, and that's coming from me as a Marvel fan. For as long as I've been a Marvel fan, that kind of tells you something about the state of Marvel movies right now, for me at least. They've got a lot to prove, not only to the outside world, but the fans that used to go opening night and not miss it a week plus out. And I still have not seen it. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to the theater or not. But maybe. We'll see. But we did watch a good movie. We're both going to talk about it. Companion. Fantastic fucking movie.
How spoilery are we going to get? Well, actually, we can get pretty spoilery because apparently
Trailer gave
the trailer gives it away, which I'm glad I didn't watch a single thing because I had no fucking idea what this movie was about. I saw the trailer before Nosferatu, I believe.
Look at the poster.
I saw
gives it away right there.
And I saw
her eyes are white.
Well, yeah, but that could be anything. But
right, yeah.
I saw Jack Quaid, and I just immediately was like, nope, I'm just going to watch this whenever it comes out. But yeah.
This movie came out January 31st, so less than a month ago. Just came out on streaming this week.
2 weeks. It came out 2 weeks after.
Yep. But it's a fantastic movie. It's just one of those movies we knew wasn't going to be a box office darling, but it was good. Very, very good. Jack Quaid, who is, of course, in The Boys, did a fantastic job. We'll talk about him in a minute, but it's a real doll. Basically, a real doll slash companion robot. Who's this girl? You find out in the trailer, and it's kind of a real doll meets Terminator kind of situation, what happens when AI becomes kind of self-aware. The evolution of AI, it always ends up full on Terminator mode, and actually, there's a lot of this movie that are nods to Terminator. The other robot in this movie, his name is Patrick. There's a little spoiler for you. He goes full-on cop T2 style mode at one point in this movie, and his name is Patrick. I have a feeling is a nod to Robert Patrick, who played the T-1000.
Did you think he was a robot before the reveal?
Yes, the minute he started talking, and of course he's dating this chubby kind of guy, and he's way, way out of his league, so you're like, okay, maybe that guy's the robot. And of course you do find out, there's a little spoiler for you that he is. And Jack Quaid in this movie, this is the big spoiler of the movie, so if you don't want to know for the next 30 seconds, cut out. He goes from being an innocent, nerdy kid to full-on criminal mastermind slash villain of the movie, where you find out you're kind of falling for this girl, who is a robot, but you get the feeling of humanity from her, just the way she emotes, just the way who she is as this robot. And she's becoming more self-aware, and Jack Quaid is just her owner, who takes a lot of liberties with her sexually and kind of like a slave almost. A lot of tongue-in-cheek nods in this movie, you could say, to feminism and whatever you want to say. But great movie, great way of telling a story like this. I know the Joaquin movie Her came out. Never saw that. I always wanted to see that. I know Scarlett did the voice of the AI in that.
Yeah, that's just a guy in love with his phone.
With his phone. I don't know any other real companion-like movies where they fall in love with the AI. I don't know, but yeah, this is a good movie. Probably a solid 4 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, definitely 4 out of 5.
Really good.
I loved it.
A lot of horror elements to it too. I was surprised by that. Lots of blood. So yeah. I know it's from the creators of Barbarian. I know you were high on that movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah. So 4 out of 5, companion. Recommend that. Just came out. But last weekend was the SNL 50th anniversary. Started off on Friday after we got off the pod with the big, huge 3 to 4 hour homecoming concert, which was live streamed on Peacock. Had a whole bunch of musical guests. Also showed some stuff from the past from the show. The big segment was Andy Samberg coming on with Lady Gaga, performing a whole bunch of a medley from Lonely Island from the show, and they did Chris Parnell came on and did Lazy Sunday, and they did a whole medley of a lot of the stuff, Dick in a Box, that they did on Lonely Island on the show. The Fugees minus Praz came in, sang. Post Malone came in with Nirvana, did the vocals. A lot of great moments, and a lot of them went viral this week. It was a good show, very, very good show. If you're not seeing it, still streaming, you can stream it now. It's on Peacock, and it's probably one of the better style concerts I've seen in a long time. But this all led up to Sunday night, which was the actual 50th anniversary of the show. It was a 3.5 hour show. and they brought all the stars in. The biggest one of the night probably was Eddie Murphy. He was in a bunch of sketches. In the first sketch of the night, he played Tracy Morgan to a T, which has gone viral. Adam Sandler had a tribute song, which is okay. It's pretty good. The one line in it when he shows Norm and Farley definitely got tears in people's eyes. There's a lot of nods to Norm because Norm was a big part of the 50th anniversary 10 years ago. Michael Che had a news segment on Weekend Update, and he mentioned back in the day of Norm being fired for doing OJ jokes. He did too many of them, and the brass at NBC at the time, one of them was friends with OJ, and ended up getting Norm fired. Well, Michael Che made a joke about it too, kind of tongue in cheek about that, and making fun of OJ and the whole situation that happened with Norm. At the end of the show, there's a great Scared Straight segment with Kenan Thompson and Will Ferrell and Eddie Murphy, seeing two giants of SNL history with Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell coming together for this one sketch, and just was comic gold. Great special. This is on Peacock as well. You can stream it on there, and I suggest if you love SNL, if you've watched SNL in the 70s, 80s, 90s, if you're involved in any of that in your lexicon, definitely go back and watch it, because there's a lot of guest appearances, a lot of stars from the past, a lot of celebrity guests too, a lot of musical guests. It's pretty good. Definitely worth watching and very nostalgic. I didn't put this in the notes. I haven't watched it. We're going to be talking about it in a couple of weeks, but I know you just added it. Reacher Season 3 came out.
Yeah.
Hold off on that. Because I'm going to plan on watching it. You're going to talk about it?
I'm spoiler free. Talk about it.
Okay.
Because this is my favorite show on television over anything else, over House of the Dragon or anything else.
Really?
This season, as we expected, does take place in Maine. And
yep.
I will say this. You watch it, and each episode starts off with about 20 minutes of stuff, and then they do like the title screen. So like the first episode is 20 minutes of stuff, and then there's a contact somebody, and it really picks up from there. This season is off to the best start of any season of the show, in my opinion. Maybe some of it's because it's in Maine. I don't know. But I will say this. I think the highlight of the first 3 episodes is Reacher wearing an eye, lobster emoji, Maine shirt. But yeah, it's fantastic, and it continues. Yeah. Great storytelling and just great action. And honestly, this show has a ton of comedy. Like even like just him wearing that shirt is it's hilarious. A lot of the stuff when he's talking is just it's hilarious. So I definitely watch Reacher, because I will be talking about it weekly, spoiler free.
Yeah, it's a weekly. It's a weekly release, right? How many episodes came out this week?
They drop 3, and then it's weekly.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna catch up on that probably this week then.
Okay.
I've also got Daredevil, Born Again coming up, so I've got a lot on my docket.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, let's get into the news. And it's not a news segment, it's a trailer roundup. A couple trailers to talk about. One of the new trailers that came out this week is the final acting performance of Angus Cloud in a movie called Freaky Tales. So this trailer looked really good. It also stars Pedro Pascal, so you already know with having Pedro in there it's going to be good. But looked really good. Ben Mendelsohn's in there too. So yeah, if you haven't seen the trailer, check that out. Angus Cloud, of course, was in Euphoria. We were praising him. How awesome he was in that show. R.I.P. to him. He did die. So yeah. Bring Her Back. Do you know anything about this movie and A24 from the makers of the Talk
heard
to
about
Me?
it, but I have not seen anything about it.
I don't know if you want to talk about
fantastic.
Okay. I did see the trailer for this. It looked just like a regular horror movie from A24, an A24 style horror movie. So yeah. And American Manhunt. Osama bin Laden. Speaking of documentaries on Netflix, this comes out on March 10th. It tells the whole story of how it took him 10 years to find out Osama bin Laden. I wonder if they'll put the John Cena...
I was going to say... what's
that's a huge for us.
He has come to his compromised
end,
or something,
yeah, something
like
that. Yeah.
Honestly,
yeah,
they probably
this,
will because WWE is on Netflix now, so they might splice that in at the end.
Yeah, just the media tackling it and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did take 10 years to find him, and it's all about that and all about the Navy SEALs going in and finding him. So, sounds good. Like I mentioned earlier, Netflix
Hopefully they
documentaries are
interview
good. So,
the guy that allegedly pulled the trigger because he is a great interview.
Yep,
Every time
he's
I
there
see him
too.
interviewed. Yep.
he's there. He's on there too. Yep.
Okay.
Captain America: Brave New World earned $40 million on its opening day, second highest opening ever for a Captain America movie. Ended up winning the weekend box office with $88.5 million. And I think it ended up being like 95 or more, maybe 100 million for the whole entire holiday weekend, including Monday. Ended up making 192 million worldwide. Yeah, so it took over the box office. Kind of knew it was going to. The number 2 movie was Paddington in Peru, 13 million, and Heart's Eyes for 10 million. No idea what that movie is. SNL ratings for the 50th had a strong 14.8 million. Doesn't seem like a lot compared to old days, but nowadays that's huge. 200% above the average season show episodes. So pretty cool. Speaking of shows, Dexter: Original Sin, the finale drew a big audience, surged up 27% from the premiere. We did love that show.
I
I'm very
hope there's a
excited for
second
Resurrection too. Yeah, me too. So, rest in peace to Biggie's mom, Letta Wallace. She died today, 72 years old. She helped keep the legacy of Biggie alive after he died 30 years ago.
That,
now, almost 30
was it
years.
MTV Music Awards, or one of the shows MTV had where she and
Biggie and Pac's
Tupac's mom both presented.
Afeni.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, rest in peace to her. Both of them keeping their son's legacy alive after they were slain. So, Leonardo DiCaprio is in talks to star as Evil Knievel in a biopic. Filming would happen sometime this summer. I don't know more about that. Directed by Damien Chazelle. I don't even know who that is. I don't know what he's directed in the
Damien
past,
Chazelle's done. He's a really good director. I can't think of what he's done off the top of my head, but he's.
Okay.
I've heard the name a lot, so I'm sure I've seen a bunch of his movies.
Got a new poster for Mickey 17. Thought it looked pretty cool. Wanted to bring it up in a 4DX poster. Comes out on March 7th, just a couple weeks from now. Got a new poster for Suits LA, starring Robbie Amell, whatever his name is.
Stephen Amell, the scab.
Stephen Amell,
the guy who
the
was
other one.
promoting works during the strike. You scab.
Yep. So this, I guess, doesn't have any of the same cast from the original Suits.
It's not as regulars.
Not
the
as
guy that
regulars.
was the
Okay.
main star of the first series is going to be appearing in it periodically.
Okay. So yeah. Thank you very much. The documentary for Andy Kaufman. I didn't hear much about it. I haven't seen a trailer for it, but I saw this poster. I wanted to bring it up and keep an eye on it because I loved Andy Kaufman. Of course, big part of SNL, big part of Taxi, big part of wrestling with the King, Jerry Lawler. So we're gonna keep an eye on that. Steven Spielberg's new movie coming out was supposed to come out in come out in June of 2026. Now coming out a month earlier in May. Coming out a couple weeks after Avengers. It's gonna be yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. Blue Bloods. We don't talk about it much because we don't watch shows like that. But Blue Bloods ended. But they're going to be doing a new universe-related show set in Boston called Boston Blue, starring Donnie Wahlberg, who was in the original Blue Bloods. And they're doing a lot of Boston stuff. So, yeah, I always like to mention Boston. Judd Apatow. Two pieces of news. I forgot to mention the other one. But he's talking about R-rated comedies. It says, they are not dead. All it takes is that one person with a great idea to revitalize them in the box office, and suddenly everyone wants to do it again. He's right about that. We've been talking about comedies for a while, and how there hasn't been a really good one lately in recent years. People are kind of walking on eggshells right now with the PC crowd. But the other thing that I saw with Judd Apatow, he is making a documentary. He did a great one. It's where the sounder for Show and Tell came from, right? Or T-Tray Sports. The Gary Shanley documentary that I talked about. Well, he's doing another documentary. He's going to be directing it on Norm Macdonald, who he's friends with as well.
Oh, good.
He's asking people and radio shows and TV shows for video footage, audio, anything with Norm that they can use for the documentary, pictures or whatever. There's a lot of stuff on the internet. There's a couple of great Instagram pages where you can get clips of Norm. So yeah, excited for that. First look at Matt Damon as Odysseus.
This photo brought a lot of Snyder's The Blueprint people back to the surface due to 300. Yeah. And apparently this isn't very close to the Odyssey.
Yeah.
His helmet shouldn't look like that, and that's why they're like, Zach's the Blueprint.
Yeah.
But cool look, and it's good to see that he's the star of this movie.
Let's not talk about it now, but let's talk about the end when we get the DC news. I forgot to add the DC bomb that happened yesterday with the photo on Twitter.
And today.
Let's talk about that.
And today.
And today. Yeah. The Last of Us Season 2, official date coming out April 13th. Excited for that. Got some new posters for that as well. Here they are. Character posters. So, yeah, very excited to see where that goes.
I got to get back into playing that game.
Yep.
So I got to finish it before the show starts.
Yep. Warfare from Alex Garland, who did Civil War. Got a brand new poster for that. I cannot wait for that movie. It comes out April 11th. And a weird casting news this week. Martin Scorsese decided to hire The Rock to be a star of his next film with Leonardo DiCaprio and Emily Blunt.
The Rock. I think he heard all those Batista's a better actor than you critiques and is actually trying to do stuff between this and the MMA movie he's doing. I saw somebody memed up Scorsese, and it said Scorsese watching Dwayne Johnson in Red One, and then it had the Absolute Cinema thing.
The other thing, did you see the one where he was watching The Rock from 1999 when he was on like WWF television? It was the same kind of meme.
Yes.
Scorsese watching wrestling.
Yep.
But the movie is going to follow an aspiring mob boss who fights rival crime faction for control of the underworld in Hawaii. And it's described as The Departed meets Goodfellas, starring The Rock. Okay, whatever his vision to see The Rock starring in this is, besides that, we'll have to wait and see.
He's the only big name Hawaiian actor, maybe? Maybe that's
it. Yeah.
We'll see.
First look at this Apple TV. I guess it's a TV show called Murderbot, starring Alexander Skarsgård. I don't know anything about
Probably
it other
something
than this
more
picture
about
that
AI.
came up. Maybe, yeah. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Will Smith was on a podcast or a video podcast this week, or game Twitch or something. I don't know what he was doing, but he was talking about a few things. He did mention Hancock 2 is in the works, and he plans to approach Zendaya for a role in the movie. Also talked about I Am Legend 2, which has been in the works for a while, starring Michael B. Jordan. They said he sat down with Michael B. and they talked about it for about a week and went through the character stuff, and they're figuring out that movie as well.
So weird, because I feel like, wasn't Will Smith at one time like very, very, very anti-sequel outside of the Bad Boys movies? Like,
I wonder why.
Those were the only movies that he ever wanted to do, but now maybe he's going back into the well since he was almost canceled from Hollywood. I don't know.
I wonder why he would have to do that all of a sudden.
Like, because I remember that was a big thing when he was casting Suicide Squad, as people were like, but Will Smith doesn't like sequels. How is he going to be in like 6 DC movies? So, we'll see.
I know you have a lot of opinions of this, and we're going to get into it all. It's a big story this week, but MGM Studios, who Amazon bought a while ago, they bought all the catalog, including the Bond movies. There was a big, huge battle between the Broccoli, who had this franchise since the 60s, and Amazon. Jeff Bezos, who's a huge fan of Bond to begin with. Mm-hmm. Probably the whole reason he bought MGM Studios.
He is a Bond
have a
villain,
feeling. He is a Bond villain in real life, but yes. But the Broccolis and the other guy, Michael G. Wilson, have stepped back and gave full creative control to Amazon for the next set of movies. I know this is a huge bomb for a lot of people who are nostalgia for the way those movies have been made in the last 60 years. I know you had your feelings on it too. We'll get that in a minute. But for me outside, I've recently watched these movies. They're about 50-50 for me. It's kind of like one of those franchises that needs new blood burned into it. Like something needs to happen to make it viable again. Mm-hmm. I think not having them involved in the creative process is weird. I think they should have had some sort of input, but having full creative control to Amazon is maybe something that this franchise needs right now, especially after they killed Bond in the last movie. I don't know. Now, get your feelings on it, and we'll talk about the rest of the article that came out.
Now, back to your point about it being a 50-50, that's kind of all summed up in the Daniel Craig 5 movies, because those movies
Yes.
were so hit or miss. It was unbelievable that the same people that did Casino Royale also did Quantum of Solace. That
Right.
also came back for the third one that a lot of people have in their top 5 Bond films. And then came
Yep.
back for Spectra, which is a piece of shit. And then everyone's mixed on the very
Divided.
last film.
Yeah.
For me, I don't want them to Disney Plus the Bond franchise.
And that's
Um,
the fear,
The big
of course.
thing was the Broccoli's did not want to do TV shows. That was the big standout and why they eventually left. I believe they also had different idea of who to cast as Bond. I can't confirm or deny that, but I don't
Yeah.
want them to Disney Plus this franchise. In the means of like Bond is the same as like was always like Star Wars to me. Good or bad, it was always an event film to see. Marvel was like that for a long time, but then they started doing all this shit on TV, and it just dilutes the product and waters everything down. So, I don't know if you saw my post on my friend Matt's Facebook page, but if I was Amazon, they have Nolan already working for them. Jonathan, not Christopher. Both of them are working on films. Both Jonathan and Christopher got into films because of James Bond. That
Yeah.
was their first love of cinema, which makes sense because the early Bond movies are all exceptional, for the most part. So I would get him on the line and have him basically run Bond, because he's already in house with Fallout and everything. But just have him run that side of Bond. Maybe do the movie side too. But like I would like to see, like, it would be cool to see a movie or a show based on like the creation of MI6 and like how it all started up, the first 00 agent. That would be kind of cool. But I just don't want like all these spin-offs that are happening with like whoever stars as them just being on Amazon Prime. Even though Amazon is a very good studio. I mean, they give us Reacher, they give us Fallout, they give us Invincible. So it's a very good studio. I just don't want them to dilute the product because I still want to go to the theater and have Bond feel like it's a special feeling, even if the movie's good or bad, just by going to the cinema and seeing a new Bond movie. I don't
Right.
want it to be like, oh, I have to watch 3 movies on Amazon to figure out what's going on in the new Bond movie, which I think is the biggest issue with the new Captain America movie is you have to watch. It's a sequel to The Eternals, which is not very good. Or a lot of people
You have
didn't
to watch two
weren't
shitty
high on it.
movies.
You have to watch that, The Incredible Hulk, which I like more than most, just because I like the Hulk anyways.
You like
And-
Edward Norton too. It's
and
a big difference
TV
between a
show,
lot of people.
yeah, and a TV show that nobody really cared for. So I think a lot of people were lost going into that movie, and that's why the reviews are so bad for that movie.
Everything says about Captain America that it's the great finale to what Falcon and Winter Soldier should have been.
Yes,
But it should have been a great finale to the show.
yes.
So yeah, you basically landed what the fear is. The Brits are
I'm
pissed
yeah,
more about it
because
than
they
we
don't-
are.
They don't want an American director to
Yeah.
do it. I think
Or
it was,
American actor.
Was it Danny Boyle? Somebody was supposed to do Bond movie, and there was so much backlash in Europe about it that the Broccoli's chickened out and didn't do it. Of course, they don't want Bond to be an American actor. We've talked about how Adam West was in consideration, but the Broccoli family back in the 60s got backlash on that, which is why Roger Moore was cast instead of him. So yeah, I mean, it's a big. I can understand why the people in Europe, and
They're-
England are so
they're acting
pissed
like-
off.
They're acting like it's a funeral for the character. Like the
Yeah.
character's now out of the British hands.
A lot of people think
yeah.
it's going to go woke, like the next James Bond will
Yeah,
be like
that
a
too.
African American, like female or something. Like I'm not really worried about that stuff because they talked about doing that stuff when the Broccoli's were involved. For Christ's sake,
They
So, like,
hinted
that
to it
doesn't
in the
bother
last
me.
movie, right? They
Like
hinted
I
to it in
say,
the last movie. So,
You just
yeah.
hire somebody that knows their shit about Bond, that's passionate about Bond, that can do the creative process, whether you do TV shows or not, and hopefully it works out. We'll have to see. But now, hopefully, going forward, we get casting news on new Bond. Aaron Taylor Johnson was the name that's been thrown around for about 3 years now.
Let's talk
and I
about.
think he might have been a choice of the Broccoli's. I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Jeff Bezos went on Twitter yesterday and talked
And
about
asked, who do you want to see as Bond?
who do you want to be as Bond, and the internet universally said not only James McAvoy, but the big one was Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Those are the
yes.
two front
Yes.
two front runners of who the internet wants to be Bond.
Yes.
Like I mentioned before, Bezos, I have a feeling the reason he bought MGM was because he's such a huge fan of Bond.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, the huge Bond villain himself
We
loves
never
Bond
talked
for.
We never talked about the tape, I don't believe, on air, of Henry Cavill's audition.
Oh, yeah,
he came
the-
in second to Daniel Craig for Casino Royale. He was the director's choice. Broccoli's had Daniel Craig in mind.
Yeah,
And people were ripping. And I did just jokingly because I love Cavill. But people were ripping that audition tape to shreds. And I'm sitting there like, Henry Cavill was 21, auditioning for James Bond. No shit, it wasn't a great audition. Like, he's a 21-year-old kid who hadn't had a big role up until then. His biggest role was probably Count of Monte Cristo, the year and a half before he did his audition tape for Bond. So, if you watch The Man from U.N.C.L.E., you know that he can handle James Bond. He'll be a great James Bond if they chose him. McAvoy kills every role. He would also be great. Aaron Taylor Johnson, also a great actor. Like, all the names I've heard for Bond being mentioned, I'm a fan of all of them. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a wait and see. When I heard the news, I was kind of bummed, but I have been coming around on it a little bit. They need to put the right people in charge. And like you said, Bezos is a huge fan of Bond, so that's only going to help things moving forward.
you cut out, so I'm not sure what happened, but
Interesting.
I'm not sure. It probably will show up on the podcast, but
Okay.
one of my favorite memes on the internet this week is The Onion, of course. Wallace Shawn emerges as frontrunner to replace Daniel Craig as James Bond. Of course, if
Okay.
you've ever seen if you ever seen The Princess Bride, he's the inconceivable guy.
Yes.
One of the greatest memes I saw this week. So yeah, we'll talk about that, and I'm sure casting news will come out not too long from now. So, got one piece of swagger we're going to talk about because these are pretty damn cool.
Swag. Stuff we all get.
Come on, son. You know that's right.
Funko Pop's releasing animated series Batman figures from 1994, 1993, whenever I can't remember when the series came out. We got Batman standing off a rooftop. We got Harley Quinn. We got Ra's al Ghul. We got the Riddler, and we got Killer Croc. That one's gonna be exclusive to Target, but they all look really cool. That's it for swag this week. In the Marvel news for the week, they always say that there's two things that will never come back from comic books. Uncle Ben, always dead. Gwen Stacy was always dead. And then they brought back Spider-Gwen, of course, and Gwen Stacy came back in another universe. Well, now they're resurrecting Gwen Stacy as Gwenpool. They're going to actually dig up her grave, and she's going to be the actual Deadpool variant, Gwenpool. Interesting art.
Speaking of Deadpool, did you see Rob Liefeld responded to one of my tweets?
I did not see that.
He
You
was
should've
just
sent it to
correcting
me.
me on some misinformation. What happened is somebody didn't know that he was part of the people that created Image, and I was like, I went on this binge of watching this YouTube channel, and they went over all the stories. And I think I got his and Tom McFarlane's thing confused because I said he intentionally bombed one of his comic books or whatever. I think that was actually McFarlane that did that, and he just he just responded. He was like, nobody intentionally bombed the run. He goes, I just left Marvel. So I just thought that was pretty funny that the creator of Deadpool responded to one of my tweets. And
He responds to a lot of people.
Hits me up and he's like, did Rob Liefeld just respond to our tweets? And I was like, yep.
Wow. Marvel Comics also announced a new comic book series, Captain America. It's going to be first arc of a flashback story that details the immediate events following Steve Rogers coming out of the ice in the 60s. A lot of old style Captain America art. I did like some of the art, that's why I'm bringing it up. A lot of 60s variant art, so that's really cool. This, I'm not sure how I'm not sure how official this is or not, but Daredevil Born Again goes out March 4th. The release schedule for the first 6 episodes have been announced. I don't think they've been officially announced by Disney Plus yet, but I did want to bring this up. Episode 1 and 2 on March 4th. Episode 3 on March 11th. Episode 4 on March 18th. And episode 5 and 6 on March 25th. I'm not sure how true that is. We'll get a final approval of that probably soon. Speaking of that, Variety article came out this week talking about now that they have Daredevil and Punisher back in Daredevil Born Again, it opens up the door for more of the Defenders coming into this universe of the MCU. Talking about it, they're exploring ideas to bring back Christian Ritter's Jessica Jones, Mike Coulter's Luke Cage, and Finn Jones' Iron Fist. So I kind of thought maybe they'd show up in this season as a cameo, but who knows? Who knows what they've actually filmed for the show? But officially added to the cast of it, by the way, the Swordsman who was in Hawkeye, he is going to be a part of the show as well. I have a feeling, I think he was part of Daredevil to begin with, but yeah. Spider-Man 4 reportedly is going to have a new supporting cast. It's going to be a new take on the character and a new direction under Daniel Cretton, Destin Daniel Cretton. So
that's what I'm hoping for. I hope that we see
we're all
Zendaya and Ned in like one scene or 2 scenes, but for the most part, have it be very street level and have him get away from that and just do like a street level for at least one movie, and then you can bring him back. But I would love Tom Holland's street level Spider-Man to be seen.
Talk about a roller coaster for Marvel this week. Beginning of the week, we got rumblings that Henry Cavill, they're looking for him to join the cast of Nova, the Nova TV series. Not saying to be Nova, but being a part of the cast. More news came out on that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But then other news came out on Deadline the next day that Marvel Studios is pausing development on not only Nova, but the Strange Academy movie, which has been rumored for a while, the Terror Inc. movie that nobody knew about, and they may still come to fruition at some point, but right now they're just focusing on the movies, which is, we kind of knew it was going to happen anyway. The Nova thing I'm surprised about because that's the story that everybody wants to see. Although I think they're wrong for putting it on Disney Plus, and that's a whole other thing. I think it should be a movie. But the story was supposed to be Richard Rider rebuilding the Nova Corps after Thanos attacked the planet, and it's going to have Annihilus. It's going to have the Annihilation arc from the comic books, and the rumor was that Henry Cavill was going to play Annihilus, which is a big, huge galactic villain. So he would have been a villain, and he would have led a new squad of Novas. And it would have had brought back Glenn Close and John C. Reilly, who were in the Guardian of the Galaxy movies. And they were looking for Richard Rider. One of the people that they were looking to cast as him was Austin Butler. That's what they were looking for, that style of an actor. As far as the Strange Academy, they were going to bring back America Chavez. Wong was going to be the main part of that. He was going to be the teacher of kind of like Disney Plus's version of Harry Potter meets Wednesday. It was for teens. It was a teen story set in a wizarding world. And the Terror movie is about a character named Terror. Horror element. He's eventually going to join the Midnight Suns, which is another rumored film that's supposed to happen. But he ends up he's a character who's an immortal anti-hero who gains abilities by grafting the limbs of others onto himself. It was supposed to be a horror show, mature audiences, so all of those have been put on the side burner for now. But yeah, they're kind of at a standstill right now. Once Fantastic Four comes out, there's going to be a couple of TV shows in between, but the next movie after that is Avengers.
I'm nervous
Avengers
about
Doomsday.
that Avengers movie because they're supposed to shoot in April and they don't even have a script yet, which is very concerning.
Sure? Are you sure about that?
That was news that came out this week. I heard that this week.
Yeah, that's worrisome. Because Fantastic Four had the writer's strike to work on their script. I think Fantastic Four is probably going to be the best movie they've done in a while because they had a ton of time pre-production to build that movie.
That movie was in pre-production for like a year and a half to work everything out.
Which they haven't had. Marvel hasn't had that amount of time in a while. It's always been fast-tracked, especially in the last 6 years. But we talked a lot about Superman lately. We talked a lot about the Superman documentary about Christopher Reeves. Will Reeves, his son, is a news reporter for ABC News. He has a new special coming out on February 26th on Hulu. It's going to be Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And it's going to be all about him following the footsteps of his father, reliving the last great expedition his father and him took in 1995 just before the horse riding accident that paralyzed him. And he was only 2 years old, so he's going to be kind of taking a whirlwind tour with that whole stuff going on. So, yeah. I think I had a picture of that. That's the promo art for it. So he looks a lot like his father. It's crazy.
He does.
The resemblance.
He looks just
New rumors are that Rocksteady is currently working on a new Batman Beyond game exclusively for the PlayStation. Of course, those Batman games, the Arkham games, are some of the best games and one of the best series, right up there with Spider-Man right now. But that's kind of where it all started, bringing the comic book world to life. And those games were really, really good, the narrative of them. So
hope they get Wilfred L back.
yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Creature Commando Season 2 was put on fast track in development after success of Season 1. And yeah, I cannot wait for that. James Gunn's talked a little bit about it this week. And the Clayface movie today talked about the director of Speak No Evil, James Watkins, is going to be directing it. This is probably the best time right now to talk about the James Gunn, Zack Snyder explosion that happened yesterday. So I went on Twitter yesterday and I saw this photo, his brand new photo of Zack Snyder and James Gunn. He posted it saying, here are my friend Zack Snyder, and this is James Gunn posted, and I saw it immediately. Oh my god, this is going to set a whirlwind on Twitter. Sent it to you, and you had already seen the outcry
So
that
here's
happened
what
online.
with this.
The war.
Reacher came out yesterday,
Yep.
and so I'm enjoying the first episode. I'm loving it. You know, how I told you it goes about 20 minutes, then the title card comes up, and you're like, "Oh shit, what's gonna happen now?" At that moment is when you sent me that, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And that's when I went to check Twitter, and it cost me about 2 hours of watching Reacher because I was just sitting there just scrolling Twitter because the whole app
He
was
sent me.
in an uproar.
You sent me a video. Every
Of my
single
timeline.
post on his timeline was this picture and people in the DC universe.
that I follow that never talk about comics. Like there are people
Dane
that I follow
Cook?
that I know like comic books, but they never talk about them.
Dane Cook went on there, talked about it because bringing these two universes together to have this love fest. Because of course the gun lovers and the Snyder lovers are at war
As a fan
on
of
Twitter.
both, this made me so happy. As a fan
But
of
yeah,
both. And of
what is the
course,
consensus? 24 hours later, what's the consensus of what everybody's saying?
well, did you hear about what happened today?
I did not hear. Let's go.
They had a press event at DC, a closed
Oh, really?
press event for news that'll be shared sometime next week, so that they can write their articles and do their video coverage.
It's Monday. I did hear
It's supposed to be- well, they say
Monday.
the earliest it's going to be is Monday.
Yeah.
So
I didn't hear about the press conference though.
So yeah, they were doing it today. It ended a few
Interesting.
hours ago, I'm assuming. But they were doing it today. It was very closed for a very limited amount of press. I'm guessing it'd be like the Hollywood Reporter, Variety, stuff like that would probably be involved. And so sometime next week, I'm assuming Monday, we're going to get news one way or the other. And obviously, a lot of people are thinking it's going to be about Zach coming back one way or the other. If he's going to direct for James, if he's going to continue his stories in Elseworlds. Because now maybe they have an idea
Whoa.
that they've done enough to where...
Fucking crazy.
I mean, I'd be happy for it, obviously. I think it would be the best thing for everyone if the studio has the
I would-
money to back it. Or maybe
Right.
Zach is very good friends with that Saudi guy. This guy is worth how many billions of dollars is this guy worth? He's like one of the richest men on the planet, and Zach is working for him on a movie. He's part of the UFC movie that they're going to be doing with the UFC.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe they'll be financed from that end. But could you imagine if Zach and basically gets the band back together? Now, the only issue with him continuing the Snyderverse now is those actors have been in some slight controversy. Gale and, of course, Ezra. Ben was, but that was
Right.
back in the day. I don't think anyone cares about that anymore. And Henry's kind of booked right now, but if they aim for like having it released 2-3 years from now, could work. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen, but if they drop news that isn't Zack Snyder related,
yeah,
it's going to be a
that's
rough
gonna
go.
be
It's going to be a rough go.
Rough week.
So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Zack's actually going to go ahead and do the Dark Knight Returns, which is basically what he did with BVS. I don't know.
Right.
So we'll have to wait for Monday and find out. Hopefully, when I wake up Monday, my phone will be going off.
Yeah, because that's all I heard was a Monday thing. That's the only thing I saw. There's a lot of people teasing it. I did not hear about the press conference at all. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about it next week probably. And finally, in news, announced first, Daniel Craig had exited. This came out before the Bond news. Daniel Craig exited the Sergeant Rock movie that was rumored to be happening. And the big news on that, we don't know why he left, but the big news on that is who they were looking to take that role. Jeremy Allen White.
Yes.
That's who they're looking to cast. Yeah, I would love that. I think he would play a great sergeant in the Army, especially a 1940s sergeant. I think he's got the look for that. He's currently filming currently in post-production of the Bruce Springsteen movie, but I could see this being his next project if he wanted to do it. Yeah, that'd be pretty incredible.
It would.
Now I'm excited for this DC news that we're getting Monday. That's all I can think about. How we're going to end the show. So that's it for the show this week. Next week, big DC week. We're talking about Superman again. We're talking about the 1940s 50s serial starring Kirk Allen in the film debut of Christopher Reeves in the Atom Man or whatever it was, Mole Man. And we're going to be talking about All-Star Superman next week. We're going to be reviewing that. Also on Apple TV Plus. First of all, got to show that picture because it's awesome. Oh yeah, and the director. God, I didn't go through this. The Gorge on Apple TV.
I've heard nothing but good things about this.
I just got Apple TV back today. I had two free month trial.
Nice.
I have a feeling. I don't know if you still have it or not, but maybe we should go through Severance, and maybe we should watch The Gorge because I've been hearing great things about it. Scott Derrickson, who did Ant-Man, getting great thing, and we love Miles Teller. And we love Anna Taylor-Joy. So I think this may be something we want to talk about in the next coming weeks. But also, Reacher is on the docket. Probably going to get into it this weekend. Daredevil Season 3 also on the docket. Probably going to get into it this weekend. Get ready for Daredevil Born Again. Not a lot coming out. There may be a Captain America watch, but at this point, seeing how it's going to do in the box office this weekend, we may be just streaming it in a couple of weeks, but we'll have to wait and see. That's it for our show, everybody. Thank you, and we will be back next week with another week of Superman stuff. Peace.
We're the Geek Blurb crew, here to enlighten you. Talking all things geeky, from movies to wrestling to our podcast is the place where you wanna be for all the latest news and nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. We review comic book flicks and sci-fi hits, riding the wave of action movies with all the cool bits. From Iron Man to Star Wars, we cover it all. And when it comes to wrestling, we never drop the ball. Geek Blurb, we're the kings of the nerds. Rating movies and pineapples, our opinions never blur. Join us each week for a geeky chat with the latest scoop and a dose of nostalgia that. So if you're a fan of the comic book craze, or a lover of sci-fi and all its maze, tune in to Geek Blurb, we're here to entertain.